Hi, everybody, and welcome to our talk. Really excited to spend a little time with Tom, our founder and owner. My name is Mark Collins, and I'm the practice principal here at IOSecure, and we're here to talk a little bit about security. Tom, let's just start with you introducing yourself quickly, a little bit about IOSecure so people can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. We're celebrating our 30th year here at IOSecure. We've been helping customers across Canada simplify and improve their technology infrastructure. It's been a great journey. We've seen a lot of changes over the 3 decades.
Fabulous, Tom. And I know today is the topic of security, so let's just talk a little bit about where we're at. I mean, security it's a well-known imperative in the Canadian enterprise. There's nothing new about that. But it feels like it's more important than ever these days. So what's changed?
So many things have changed. A couple of major trends over time have happened. The cybersecurity market, the damage is done by the bad actors out there is huge. We think that it's a little bit of noise in the background. I was just looking at some numbers earlier today, and $6 trillion of damage done in cybersecurity attacks. 6 trillion. It's astronomical. It's just so much noise in the background of things that happen that we take for granted every day. Another thing that's changed is the shift away from the traditional architecture. We work everywhere. As I sometimes say that the laptop is the branch today, and we have to change our security mindset to work around that. It's about protecting the data, and our data is everywhere.
So $6 trillion worth of damage. I mean, that's a pretty mind-boggling number. And you're talking about like the shift in the actual technology footprint itself, because I mean, change is constant. But it seems to me like, the number of attacks and the noise that we hear out there, while you quoted a huge number, it still continues to accelerate. Tom, is this a losing battle, or are there ways to actually try and get ahead?
I'm actually optimistic about it, as even though it's a big number, a lot of these are well understood attacks. And just like in life, we understand what the risks are and we do things to protect ourselves from them. We can't make anything perfect, but we can protect ourselves in the worst case scenarios. And we do that by simplifying the conversation down to what's important to the business.
Mm.
We work with some very large customers protecting billions of dollars worth of assets, some name brand customers protecting brands worth tens of billions of dollars. And it's about finding the right mix for each customer. Everyone's coming from a different place. Everyone has different objectives, different customers that they're selling to. Maybe it's a small nonprofit that's the CFO needs to protect the donor's database on a single laptop. That's a much simpler conversation than a bank dealings in $100 billion to protect. And so we have to come up with the right fit for the customer based on what the value we're protecting is, based on the resources available to us, and understand how many layers of protection we need to put in, understand how many layers of process we need to fit in. It's not a one size fit all.
So align to the business priorities and then ensure that the security strategy and technology underneath fits the size of the
Absolutely.
business and the priorities of the business.
Maybe the business wants to protect the brand. Maybe the business
Right.
wants to protect their customers' money. Maybe the business wants to protect their customers' privacy. Maybe the business wants to protect the operations of the business so the manufacturing can keep manufacturing. Every business
Right.
is different in some way.
So when you think about that, by the maximum amount of technology, defense systems that you can afford, and then just make sure you're well insured, and that's pretty much the best you can do. Is it that simple? Does it need to be more complicated than that?
I actually take a different approach, Mark, as we see a lot of customers buy the greatest tools available. And in many ways, we see them having the same problems as they had before, just faster. And that's not really helping anyone. There's things we can do that cost very, very little. Most of our customers are using the Umbrella platform for securing a DNS layer. It's low cost, it's highly effective, and it updates in real time. The bad actors out there are coming up with slightly different ways to attack every day. We can't just buy a static product, put it in place, and expect it'll do the job. We have to understand the different layers available to us and exploit the ones that make sense for us.
So, Tom, you mentioned technology architectures and how fast things are changing out there. And one thing I wondered if you could just share, what are some of the technologies that have caught your attention when having some of these conversations with customers?
One of the technologies I'm most excited about is our ability to move some of these security infrastructures further into the cloud. During COVID, so many of our customers suffered from having legacy hardware on site that wasn't scaled to meet their changing needs. And as staff were moving everywhere, the network wasn't able to keep up. But being able to move these services into the cloud using the secured service edge or part of the SASE portfolio helps reduce so much of the overhead in keeping security infrastructure up to date. I mentioned the need to constantly staying up to date with the different attacks that are being used and be able to outsource this to a security vendor to do automatically for us makes our life so much easier. Some of our customers work globally, and having fixed infrastructure in their environment really doesn't work for someone who's in Japan having to connect to devices in North America, or someone in Europe has to connect to devices in Asia. It gives a very poor response. Being able to move this infrastructure into the cloud helps improve that performance, and people automatically get the best experience possible. One of the services I'm quite excited about as an example of this is the Cisco Secure Access. Laptops, offices automatically connect to the closest node, automatically route traffic to where it makes most sense for it to go, and we can add layers of services on there without having to buy new hardware, without having to configure new hardware, without having to maintain new hardware. It's a as a service approach that makes a lot of sense for our customers today. We use it internally in our company today as well.
So when you get in those conversations with leaders like that, Tom, I think maybe the only thing that's expanding faster than the number of attacks out there is the number of vendors popping up to counter those threats. The security vendor landscape seems to be expanding at an extraordinary rate. How do you make sense of, I'll call it the vendor jungle out there?
It's a great question. The explosion of the vendors, I was saying yesterday, I think the number was over 3,000 cybersecurity vendors identified in the marketplace by Gartner. That's a huge number. No one can wrap their head around 3,000 vendors with 5,000 solutions. That's ridiculous. I like to take the conversation to work with a framework and break it down into what the vision is we talked about earlier, and what are
Mm-hmm.
the policies we're trying to implement. What are the right policies for this business to protect the data? And then from there, we can go into a conversation of what are the tools, people, and processes are to complete the circle. Once we identify what it is we're trying to accomplish, then we can understand the tool set we need. And it works out to what vendors make sense for the customer. Does the customer have relationships and skill sets and with the vendor already that we can work with? It makes more sense to leverage a reduced number of vendors than to work with all 3,000 vendors. The amount of overhead to work with a vendor, to add another vendor to the mix, is often underestimated by our customers. It's about simplifying our processes, simplifying our relationships we need to manage. It's about leveraging the platforms that are out there and available to us.
Clearly, the ability to rely on a methodology to be able to deliver on what the customer's needs and expectations are. Do you see any reference methodologies that you see as critical to be able to deliver on customers' needs and expectations?
Absolutely, great point. There's a dozen frameworks out there available to us. I see the industry converging on the NIST framework, National Institute Standards and Technologies out of the US, probably the oldest standard out there. It's just upgraded to their Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. I'm a big fan. I think some of the changes made recently make a lot of sense for all customers, not just the largest customers. But at the same time, it's a daunting task. There's 126 controls in there identified. None of our customers in Canada are going to sit down and do 126 in a year. So it's a further conversation to how can we leverage this to the benefit of ourselves, our customers? How can we use this as a language between ourselves and our peers and our vendors? And how can we use it to track our progress on the journey? And for that, I think it's a win.
So, Tom, when you talk about that NIST methodology, do you have any offerings right now for customers where they can say perhaps in an hour, spend some time with IOSecure and get to an outcome that's actionable?
Absolutely. We have a process to sit down with customers and work through that journey. What vision, mission statement in the NIST framework makes sense for the customer? What are the priorities for the business? Where do we spend our time? And the tasks are, as I said, generally well understood. We can come up with some prioritized lists of things we can do in an actionable way, in a defined way to help improve that customer's security journey. It's a process we've had good success with. Our customers find it more straightforward to step through than trying to come up with 1,000 policies. That's not realistic. Let's simplify. Let's make this an English language that not only the technical staff, but the executive staff and our customers can understand and rally around.
So within 60 minutes, we can go through a security, I'll call it get out at the starting blocks in a simple session to make sure we clearly understand the business priorities, get a sense of the processes in place, understand some of the technology that is in use today, and then pull it all together using the NIST framework to clearly identify some actionable steps to come out of the meeting with a path forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of it as extending NIST into people, process, and tools for what the business needs and what we can prioritize for, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 2 year journey for that first phase. And just recognize it's part of a journey.
Perfect. So with that, Tom, I think we can wrap it up. We've covered a lot today. Excited to hear that you're bringing together the best of IOSecure across people, processes, and technology, leveraging industry standards like NIST, and working with strong vendors the likes of Cisco in order to bring together solutions that'll help solve customers' problems to secure them today and moving forward. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.